If you've been buying the same sugar brand for years and never once questioned it, what you're about to find out might surprise you. Sugar feels like the simplest thing in the grocery store. One ingredient, nothing to read, no reason to look twice. That assumption is exactly what this investigation is about. Because the label on that bag is legally permitted to stay silent about where the sugar came from, what plant it was made from, and how it was refined. Most brands don't volunteer any of it, and most shoppers never think to ask. So here's one question before we get into it. Is the sugar in your kitchen right now made from sugar cane or a sugar beet? Just try to answer from memory. Most people can't. And that one blind spot, that single thing most of us have never thought to check, is the whole story. 12 brands, 8 had real transparency problems. 4 held up completely. We're going through everyone. Let's start with number 8. Number 8. Great Value Standard White Sugar. The most purchased bag of sugar in the United States. When it goes in the cart, the thinking is fast. It's cheap. It's white. It's sugar. Nothing complicated about it. Here's what happens when you slow down for 30 seconds and actually look. Flip the bag over and try to find out whether the sugar inside came from sugar cane or a sugar beet. In most cases, you won't find an answer. The word cane doesn't appear anywhere on the standard packaging. That's not a printing oversight. It's a reflection of how this product is actually sourced. Great Value White Sugar operates as what the industry calls a supplier blend. Whoever offers the best price that quarter wins the contract. One season it's cane, the next it's beet. Sometimes both at once. U.S. labeling law doesn't require disclosure of the source plant, and it doesn't require a country of origin either. So, the same bag design, looking completely identical every time you grab it, can hold a meaningfully different product from one purchase to the next. Nothing on the outside changes. You'd have no way of knowing. There's also no producer contact information on the packaging. If you had a question or a concern, there's nowhere to send it. Worth noting, Great Value does sell a separately labeled organic cane sugar. Different product, different supply chain, different story entirely. But the standard white, nothing to verify. When a label won't even confirm what plant the main ingredient came from, you're not reading food information. You're trusting a price point. Number 7. Market Pantry from Target. On the shelf, this looks like Target's version of the exact same product. White bag, white sugar, same basic category, slightly different logo. And that surface similarity is the problem. Market Pantry is a private label. Target doesn't grow or refine its own sugar. A contracted supplier does, pours it into a bag with Target's branding on the front, and the supplier's identity stays completely invisible. That arrangement isn't unique to Target. It's how almost every major retailer manages its house brand, but it creates a specific issue most shoppers have never had reason to consider. The sugar in this year's bag and last year's bag are not guaranteed to have come from the same place. Store brands can change suppliers entirely without updating the packaging. No announcement, no reformulation notice, no asterisk. The bag stays the same because the bag is the brand. What goes inside is a separate operational decision. For someone who bakes regularly and has developed a feel for a recipe, the consistency, how the batter behaves, the final texture, batch-to-batch variability is a real problem the label will never explain. Something just feels different one time, no way to trace it. There are also no certification seals on this packaging, no USDA organic, no non-GMO project verified. Any quality implied by the Target name rests on assumption, not documentation. The logo is doing work the label isn't. Number 6. Members Mark from Sam's Club. The warehouse pitch is straightforward. Bigger bag, lower price per pound, better deal overall. On the value calculation, Members Mark is genuinely competitive. That part holds up. But bulk format creates a transparency problem that doesn't get talked about enough. The information on the back of the bag doesn't scale with the quantity inside it. A 25-pound bag carries exactly as much sourcing disclosure as a 4-pound bag, which is very little. You're getting more sugar for less money, and precisely 0 additional answers about where it came from or what happened to it before it reached the shelf. There's also a psychological dimension here. When you're committing to 25 pounds and a membership fee before you can even buy it, You're already invested before you've read anything. The scale and the entry cost discourage the kind of scrutiny that would happen naturally with a smaller, cheaper product. And when no certification seal and no plant disclosure are present, scrutiny is exactly what's needed. More pounds in the bag, no more answers on it. Number 5. Kroger. A name this established in American grocery retail carries a built-in expectation. Kroger has been part of American households for generations. The packaging is clean, the name is familiar, and the language on the bag reads the way reliable products are supposed to read. Here's what surfaces when shoppers have actually pressed the company directly. When someone asks Kroger a simple question, is this cane sugar or beet sugar? The answer that has come back is that it depends on the supplier. Sit with that for a moment. The company's own position is that they don't always know what plant produced the sugar until after the supply order is placed. This isn't deliberate evasion. The supply chain is genuinely structured this way. Price drives sourcing. When beet is cheaper this cycle, beet fills the bag. When cane is cheaper next cycle, cane takes over. The bag reflects none of these shifts. What makes this more striking than simple vagueness is the directness of the admission. Kroger isn't pretending the answer exists somewhere and declining to share it. They're confirming that the supply chain doesn't produce a stable answer to give, and the bag still offers no indication that this is what's happening inside it. A trusted grocery name on the outside, a supply chain built for price, not traceability, on the inside. That's not what most shoppers think they're paying for. Here's a quick reality check before we get to the top 4. Nothing we've covered so far makes these products dangerous. The sugar is safe. What's missing isn't safety. It's the ability to know what you're buying. And that matters more than most people realize, especially as we get to the brands where the gap between image and reality gets much wider. Now, here's something worth understanding before we get to the top 4 on the skip list. Because every pattern you've seen, the missing plant names, the blank origin fields, the depends on the supplier, this wasn't negligence. It was built gradually, over more than a century, and it happened so slowly that almost no one registered it while it was happening. A couple of generations ago, sugar had a straightforward origin story. It came from a mill, a specific locatable place. Cane grew in a defined region, got processed at a nearby facility, and reached a kitchen through a short enough supply path that someone could trace it if they wanted to. The mill had a name, the region had a reputation, the sugar had a provenance. Then global demand changed everything. Sugar became one of the most heavily traded agricultural commodities on Earth. The industry consolidated to meet that demand. Regional mills gave way to massive centralized refineries. Cane from South America and beet from the American Midwest fed into the same industrial pipelines and emerged looking completely identical. That uniformity wasn't incidental. It was the objective. Along the way, consumers had absorbed an equation. White means pure. The industry followed that expectation. Brands competed to produce the most consistent, most brilliant white crystal possible, because that's what moved off shelves. But hitting that standard at scale meant stripping away the details that once made sugar traceable. The region, the plant, the processing method. None of it showed up in the finished crystal, so none of it needed to show up on the bag. Sugar used to come from a mill, now it comes from a supply chain. And a supply chain has one priority: efficiency. The bag doesn't tell you what's inside, because it was never designed to. That's not an accident. It's the trade the industry made. Cheaper sugar always in stock, in exchange for the ability to know where it actually came from. This is still not a health story. What disappeared from the modern sugar supply chain isn't safety. What disappeared is the ability to know. And that's exactly why the next 4 brands, including the most recognized sugar name in the country, still can't answer the question. If this is already changing how you look at a grocery label, stick with us. The most surprising brand is still coming. Number 4. Kirkland Signature Standard Sugar from Costco. Kirkland has done something genuinely difficult in retail. It's built a private label that shoppers actively seek out, not as a compromise, but as a deliberate choice. Across a wide range of categories, Kirkland consistently outperforms national brands at a lower price. When a Costco member drops the big bag of Kirkland sugar into the cart, That confidence isn't irrational. The brand has earned real credibility, but brand credibility and label transparency are two separate things. Conflating them is exactly how this kind of gap goes unexamined. Standard Kirkland white sugar is a private label product built on the same supplier-dependent sourcing model as the store brands below it. No plant disclosure, no certification seal, no producer information. The things that would let you independently verify what you're buying simply aren't there. What keeps this from sitting higher on the list is one specific fact. On Costco's own shelves, right next to the standard bag, Kirkland also sells an organic cane sugar. That product carries certification from an outside body. Sourcing and processing have been independently verified. And none of that changes when a better version of the exact same brand is sitting within arm's reach. The standard version has no real justification for the gap. If you're already making the Costco trip, the better bag is one shelf over. Number 3. Imperial sugar. Imperial has something genuine that the store brands below it don't. The label actually names the plant. This is cane sugar. That's a real and meaningful step. It answers the first question this investigation asks of every brand, and it puts Imperial ahead of everything that came before it on this list. But answering the first question opens the second one. In U.S. cane sugar refining, getting from raw cane juice to the bright white crystal in the bag requires a whitening step. The method used at that stage varies from facility to facility. Some refineries filter through bone char, charred cattle bone, which has been used in the American sugar industry for well over a century. Other facilities use activated carbon or ion exchange systems to achieve the same visual result. The finished crystal looks identical regardless of which method produced it. Here's the part that matters for anyone reading a label. None of that filtering method information is required to appear on the packaging. Knowing the sugar is cane answers the plant question. It tells you nothing about the process that followed. The second question stays completely dark. Imperial also carries no organic certification and no non-GMO project verified seal. So, the processing question that organic certification would force into the open remains unresolved on every bag. Cane on the front is progress, but the question that determines how your sugar was made, still not on the label. Number 2. C&H Pure Cane Sugar. Two words are doing a lot of work on the front of this bag. Pure cane. The packaging is clean, confident, built around an implied simplicity that feels like a promise. Like Imperial, C&H names the plant, genuine credit. But the word sitting next to cane is where things get complicated. Pure carries no legal definition under U.S. food labeling rules. None. It's not a regulated claim. No outside organization has to verify it before it goes on the bag. It was chosen by a marketing team because it communicates exactly the feeling a brand in this space wants to communicate. And for that purpose alone, it costs nothing to use. The distinction that separates meaningful claims from marketing language is simple. A certification seal requires someone outside the company to audit the supply chain, verify the sourcing, check the processing, and formally authorize the use of that seal. The word pure requires none of that. A copywriter approved it. C&H is also owned by the same parent company as Domino. Both brands share the same underlying limitation: large-scale cane refining, and the processing question left entirely off the packaging. The front of the bag sounds like a documented commitment. It isn't. You're trusting the adjective, not an audit. And number 1 on the skip list, Domino. This is the brand most people picture when they think of sugar. The logo has been in American kitchens long enough that trust in it functions almost automatically. You don't consciously decide to trust Domino. You just reach for it, because reaching for it is what you've always done. That automatic trust is precisely what earns it the top spot on this list. Domino does confirm the sugar is cane. Same partial answer Imperial and C&H provide, but Domino doesn't tell you where that cane was grown. It doesn't tell you how the sugar was processed. The two pieces of information that would make a sugar label genuinely transparent, origin and processing method, are absent from the packaging entirely. The most recognized sugar brand in America, the one most likely sitting in your kitchen right now. And it has never answered the two questions that actually matter on a label. This is a failure that only scale can sustain. When a brand is embedded deeply enough in households, the name begins functioning as its own evidence. Shoppers stop reading because they feel like they already know. The logo becomes a substitute for the information the label doesn't contain, and because Domino carries no certified organic product line, no better version within the brand to redirect shoppers toward, there isn't even a cleaner Domino to reach for. The biggest name in the aisle, the most unanswered questions on the shelf. Most people never notice because the name has always felt like the answer. It isn't. If this is helping you shop differently, a like goes a long way. It helps more people find this before their next grocery run. That's the complete skip list. 8 brands, 8 different versions of the same transparency failure. Before the best options, 3 tools worth carrying into any aisle anywhere. First, a label check you can run in under a minute. Flip the bag and look for 4 things. Does it name the plant, cane, or beet? Does it say organic? Does it include any origin or producer information? And does it carry a real certification seal? USDA Organic, non-GMO Project Verified, or Fair Trade Certified? 4 yeses is a transparent bag. 0 yeses is a black box. Most sugar lands somewhere between, and this check lets you place it exactly. Second, something you can try at home. Put a spoonful of standard white refined sugar into a glass of warm water. Put a spoonful of minimally processed organic or raw sugar into a second glass. The white sugar disappears fast and clean. The less refined version takes a moment longer and leaves a faint gold tint. Residual molasses content that intensive refining strips away completely. This isn't a health test. Neither version is nutritionally superior in any meaningful sense. What it shows you is that 2 bags presenting as identical are not identical. Sugar was never quite as simple as the bag suggested. Third, the one to use in the aisle. 4 questions, 10 seconds, any bag. Does it name the plant? Does it show a certification seal? Does it tell you where the sugar came from? And does the packaging read like a company that wants you informed or one that would prefer you kept moving? The bag either earns your attention or it tells you something by not earning it. Now, here are the options that actually held up. Best option number 4, Trader Joe's Organic Cane Sugar. The packaging looks like a cheerful store brand. Read past the label design and look at what it actually says. Organic cane, evaporated cane sugar, minimally processed. That last detail shows up in the product itself. There's a faint natural color to the crystals. The trace of molasses content left behind when processing doesn't go all the way to bright white. The organic certification on this bag resolves 2 of the biggest questions at once. Sourcing and processing have been documented and independently verified. The cane cannot have come from GMO sources. An organization outside Trader Joe's reviewed the supply chain and issued a formal sign-off. All of that at a store brand price. This is proof that transparency and affordability aren't in conflict. The clean list doesn't start at a premium price point. Where it sits at number 4, rather than higher, is specificity. As a private label, Trader Joe's doesn't share much about specific farms or sourcing regions. The certification carries the weight, but the story behind the product is thin. You know it's clean. The details beyond that aren't there. For a low-cost, easy upgrade from an unverified bag, this is the entry point to the clean list. Best option number 3, 365 by Whole Foods Organic Cane Sugar. Another house brand, but with a practical advantage that matters for most shoppers. The label says organic, non-GMO by definition, cane. And it's available across Whole Foods locations nationally, as well as through online delivery, which means the same documented product is reachable in more situations without a special trip. That reach is what moves this above the Trader Joe's entry. The organic certification does the same essential work. Independent verification of sourcing and processing. But this one shows up in more shopping contexts. If you currently use an unverified store brand white sugar and want the cleanest, lowest friction upgrade available, this is the most practical starting point on the clean list. Same measurements in every recipe. Same baking results. A dramatically more transparent supply chain behind it. One easy swap. Same shelf trip. Completely different label. Best option number 2, wholesome sweeteners. Most people walk past this one. The packaging reads like a specialty product with a price premium attached to a niche audience. Pick it up and turn it over. The certification stack on this bag is unlike anything else in the sugar aisle. USDA Organic, Fair Trade Certified, non-GMO Project Verified, Kosher, Vegan Friendly, 5 independent certifications. Each one required an organization with no financial relationship to Wholesome to audit the supply chain, verify the claims, and formally authorize the use of that seal. That's a categorically different kind of claim from a brand printing the word pure on its own bag. But the certifications aren't even the most significant part of what this brand does. Wholesome openly sources its organic cane from farming cooperatives in Central and South America. As a pioneer of fair trade sugar in the U.S. market, it has paid out millions of dollars in fair trade premiums back to those farming communities over the years. Money that has funded clean water systems, schools, and healthcare infrastructure in the villages where the cane is actually grown. This brand answers all 4 core questions this investigation asks. What plant? Cane. Where from? Named farming cooperatives in Central and South America. How was it processed? Verified organic with documented methods. Who confirmed all of this? 5 separate certifying bodies. You're not just buying a transparent product. You're buying a supply chain with documented accountability at every step and real communities at the far end of it. It's available in mainstream supermarkets now, not just specialty stores. That matters for most people's shopping routine. And the best option overall? Florida Crystals. People see this on the shelf and read it as a premium specialty item for a specific kind of buyer. It isn't priced the way that assumption suggests, but the label tells a story nothing else in the sugar aisle comes close to matching. Grown, harvested, and milled on the company's own family farms in the United States. Regenerative Organic Certified, a standard that sits above conventional USDA Organic in what it demands from the farming operation. USDA Organic, non-GMO Project Verified, Certified Vegan, Kosher. Here's what structurally separates this from every other brand on both lists. Most sugar companies buy from suppliers. Florida Crystals grows its own cane. Most brands ship raw product to separate refining facilities. Florida Crystals mills within 24 hours of harvest at its own facility on U.S. soil. There is no outside supplier to wonder about. There is no depends on the batch answer when a customer calls, because the batch is traceable from a specific field to a specific facility to the bag in your hand. Every claim on this packaging has been independently verified by certifying bodies that operate under regulatory standards and answer to no one inside the company. No brand at any scale is beyond scrutiny. Large-scale agriculture generates real and legitimate debate, and that's worth saying plainly. But this investigation had one specific question. Can you actually see where your sugar came from and how it was made? On that question, Florida Crystals doesn't just pass. It makes every other brand's answer look like a placeholder. The brands that failed asked you to trust the logo. Florida Crystals built a label you can actually verify. Before you close this out, a few things worth carrying with you into any store. Pick one transparent brand and stop reevaluating every time. Choose something from this list that works for your budget and routine. Make it your default and take the decision off the table. The goal isn't to optimize on every shopping trip. It's to stop reaching for a bag that tells you nothing. Treat a silent label as its own answer. A bag that won't name the plant, won't show a certification seal, and offers no origin information isn't being neutral. It's telling you it would prefer you didn't look closely. A missing answer is still an answer. Stop paying for adjectives. Pure, natural, premium, cane. Words a marketing team chose because they generate the right feeling. No legal requirement behind them. No outside verification needed. A certification seal is a different category entirely. It means someone outside the company reviewed the claim and signed off. Pay for the seal. The adjectives are decoration. Color, price, and logo are not evidence. A whiter crystal is not a cleaner product. A higher price is not proof of better sourcing. A famous name is not a transparency guarantee. None of those 3 signals tells you where the sugar came from or what happened to it. They're there to make the decision feel settled without giving you any actual information. And when you're in a store you don't know, looking at a brand you've never seen, pressed for time, look for organic. One word that closes two questions at once. Processing has been independently verified, and the cane cannot be GMO sourced. It's not the complete answer to every question, but it's the fastest reliable shortcut when you have nothing else to go on. One last thing. A cleaner sugar label is not a health upgrade. It's a transparency upgrade. Sugar is still sugar, and it belongs in a normal diet in normal amounts. What you're protecting yourself from here isn't the product. It's the experience of buying a mystery and being told it's the obvious choice. 8 brands that couldn't answer the basic questions. 4 that could, with Florida crystals at the top. But go back to where this started. A bag of great value that can't confirm what plant its main ingredient came from. And sitting right beside it on the same shelf, a great value organic cane sugar that answers the question immediately. Same brand name, same logo. One bag tells you something, one tells you nothing. The difference is, one reached to the right. That's the whole lesson. The logo doesn't tell you what's inside. The label does. 4 questions, 10 seconds. Any store, any aisle, any bag you've never seen before. Name the plant. Find a certification seal. Check for an origin. Notice whether the packaging sounds like a company that wants you informed or one that wants you moving. That's the tool. It works everywhere. Sugar is still sugar. We're not here to take it away from you. We're here to give you back the ability to actually know what you're buying. 2 bags, same white crystals. One tells you everything. One tells you nothing. Next time you're in the grocery aisle, flip the bag over.